right. What's up, guys? Welcome
What's
back
going
to
on?
another brand new episode of the Opinion City podcast. We are a professional wrestling podcast where we debate the hottest topics of the past, present, future, and beyond. We are your hosts. My name is Ralph Heinmarch.
And I am Parmesan Russell.
This podcast is for you, the listeners, and obviously we love hearing your opinions. So please reach out to us via email at opinioncitypod@gmail.com.
If you'd like to support the show, you can follow us at Opinion City Pod on all the socials. You can find all the links to what we do over there. You can follow myself at Parmechuzel. You can follow Ralph at RealRalph316. If you like what you're hearing, don't be a stranger. Like, rate, review, subscribe to our show. Let us know your opinions because we want to hear from you. And please share us with your friends. Now, this week, a lot happened this week, Ralph, hasn't it? A lot has gone down this week.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crazy week for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of news coming out about what's going on with WWE, what's going on with the TV shows, what's going on with Vince, and on top of all of that, it was pretty much the understanding, I think, of most people that at this point, the cuts that were coming after the merger were mostly behind the scenes people, office people, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we get the surprise, the absolute, I guess you want to call it, shock of this huge list of releases that just literally came out of nowhere.
A lot of releases, man. They went through 20 superstars from NXT and the main roster alike.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. There are some names that a lot of people may not know. There are some names that will come to a lot of people as no surprise whatsoever. There are a lot of names that will, that were very surprising. People that, we kind of figured would be around for the long haul, but that was not necessarily the case. Now, I did read somewhere that, and off the top of my head, I forget which wrestler may have said this. This may have come from the socials of, I believe, Mansoor or Mace. I'm not 100% sure on that. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But there's been, it was put out that the general thought was that once the merger happened and TKO started, that the majority of wrestlers that were going to be let go, their contracts were just going to be let run out. And that would be the end of it. No foul, no harm. We're just not resigning you. But nobody really saw the releases coming. It sounds like, some of the wrestlers themselves were not in the know about this, that they were, just as surprised as the fans. So it's been an interesting week. So just a programming note as we begin our episode here. We just want to let you know that we originally had Gentleman Jervis scheduled for an interview today. We are still hoping to have him on at some point, but we are going to continue along with the show, and if we are able to get Gentleman Jervis into the conversation, we will get him into the conversation. If not, we will definitely attempt to reschedule him for a future episode.
If not, you have to deal with just us two. That's it.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's pretty much us from this point forward. Hopefully, Gentleman Jervis joins us. If not, it's Opinion City. We're gonna roll with the punches. We're gonna keep giving you our opinion, and seriously, a lot to talk about this week.
Opinion.
Yes,
we gotta go over this. I feel like this is one of our main storylines of our show because it's the main storyline of their show. I have to get your opinion on this totally convoluted now Bloodline saga with going from Jimmy to helping Jay leave and them going on the outs to Jimmy trying to make his way back in. I don't know, man. I don't get what they're doing with it. I don't see the story here. They kind of lost me when Jimmy was the one that cost Jay the matchup against Roman Reigns. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
All right. So I've got some very unpopular opinions about this, I'm sure. I've been okay. So the last few days, I've been thinking about this Roman Reigns thing for a while, and it's really been bugging
Right.
me because now they're talking about, Roman could make it through WrestleMania 40 and still have the title because
Oh
now
God,
they want to get him past Hogan, and then they'll do something. Like I
it's too
get
much.
it. But let me just throw this out there because honestly, I was thinking about this. I was in the car the other day and I was listening again to Busted Open and a conversation about this, and it just hit me. It's like we're looking at the number of days that he's been champion, and we're looking at the number of title defenses that we have, and we continuously give him a pass for this. We give him a pass because, okay,
Yep.
well, there was a certain amount of time where he wasn't healthy. He's been fighting health issues. Okay, I get all of that. And I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. But just, then we kind of go at it from a storyline point of view where we're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, Triple H said that, he had Paul Heyman, the master, had this written into his contract so that, he didn't have to make title defenses all the time like everyone else. Listen,
Yeah.
if we were talking about the greatest champions of all time, and we were talking about the greatest WWE champions of all time, and we look at guys like Bruno Sammartino, we look at guys like Bob Backlund, Pedro Morales, Hulk Hogan, if we take those names and if we had to talk about them in the same vein where a guy like Bruno Sammartino or Bob Backlund only defended the title every 3 months or every 6 months, or we wouldn't be giving them the same pass. And I'm not saying
No.
I'm not crapping all over Roman Reigns. I'm not saying anything about Roman Reigns as a person, as a character. Roman Reigns has been this storyline has been amazing, and you've got to give like 95% of the credit to Roman Reigns. He has been
of
just
course
doing a great job with
killing
this.
it.
But the problem is, and I think we're starting to see it now, everyone made such a big deal about how great Roman Reigns' title reign has been, which fine, whatever. People will say what they want to say. He does have big wins over people. Whatever. It is what it is at this point. But B, we're talking about Roman Reigns as this guy who, and this is an exact quote I heard from somebody where they said, Roman Reigns gets everyone else over. But here's the thing, and this is what I think we're starting to see, and this is what I think is happening with the saga currently, which is why we're having trouble with it, why we're not enjoying it as much. We have these times when Roman Reigns is going to be off of TV. And so we have these weeks where Roman Reigns simply isn't present. So what happens now? Well, what happens now is that we're at the point where we have to rely on all these people that he's gotten over to carry the storyline. And I don't think that's happening because I don't think, nothing against Jimmy or Jay, nothing against Solo. Solo is relatively new to the game. Like I'm not going to put anything on. I'm not going to put anything on Solo right now because Solo is, again, new to the game. He's had, his spotlight, his time in the sun, but he's relatively new. So I have a hard time really kind of finding fault with him in not being able to step up and be the shining star of these segments and whatnot. But Jimmy and Jay, again, nothing against them, but Jimmy and Jay are tag team wrestlers. Jimmy and Jay have relied on each other, not just in the ring, outside of the ring, promo wise. Everything they've done to this point really has been building them as a tag team. And now, we did see a little bit of singles stuff previously, but nothing to this degree, nothing to the point where we're now talking about, main event Jay and Jimmy kind of really being tasked with leading the Bloodline storyline on SmackDown. So I think that we are seeing the fact that Solo and Jimmy and Jay, and again, Jimmy's got Paul Heyman helping him, in these segments and things. So it's not like he's kind of off by himself. And Jay has been working with a lot of people on Raw. The big thing was when he came to Raw, it was Cody that brought him in. So he had moments with Cody. He had moments with Sammy. He had moments with Kevin Owens. So I think we're at a point where we're seeing maybe not necessarily the deficiencies in Jimmy and Jay, but I think what we're seeing is the difference in level between Roman and Jimmy and Jay as single stars, where Roman is way up here and Jimmy and Jay are maybe down here, and it's not enough to carry the storyline without Roman. It's not enough for them to
I
take
think
weeks by
what we
themselves and
realized
just
is that Roman is kind of the glue to the bloodline, and without Roman there, what are they going to do without him? Like, he is the star of the saga, and not having your star on TV kind of hurts the other like secondary players in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, you know, the bloodline storyline is good because of the bloodline. I think it's the same thing. I mean, it's the same kind of thing when you look at a faction and you look at any faction you can name, you can see that each person in that faction is putting a piece into that faction, and it is those pieces together, not separately, but those pieces together that are really making the faction what it is. And I feel like that's really what we're seeing with the bloodline right now. And when you, I mean, let's think about this. So here's a great example, and I want you to think about whether this would be something you would enjoy or not. So let's say that it is, you know, 30, 40 years ago, whatever you want to say. Let's say that we're watching the Four Horsemen, and for the next month, it's just going to be like Tully, Arn, and Ole. There's going to be no Ric Flair. You're you're not gonna get to see them together. You're going to get to see Tully do interviews one night, Arn do interviews one night, Ole do interviews one night, and they're not even gonna wrestle on the same cards. They're only going to be on different cards. And again, I'm not making a generalization about Tully or Arn or Ole, because I think they're all fantastic, and for what they were doing at the time, I think that their promos and their work, you know, the Four Horsemen was an idea and a concept that worked not only for the people as a group, but worked for them individually, because just the fact that the Horsemen were better than everyone else, that was their thing. And it really, it was like a trickle down effect. You know, it hit everybody and it brought everybody forward. But for as great as the Horsemen were, you don't have a single version of the Horsemen that doesn't center around Ric Flair, and there's a reason for that. Which is why you can't have a version of the bloodline that doesn't center around Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I think I'm just confused because, like, the only way I can see this playing out with Jimmy wanting to join back in with the bloodline after he tore it apart or helped tear it apart is if, in his mind, in order to get Solo out, he has to play in. So having him sort of rejoin as like the undercover guy that wants to get his last brother out while he still can, that's the only way I can see this coming out as a normal storyline. Otherwise, why have Jimmy help break it up just to mend it back together?
See, here's what bothers me about all of this, because, you know, every single scenario that we're looking at right now, why is Jimmy doing what he's doing? Why is Jay doing what he's doing? Why are we watching the bloodline? Why are we looking at all of these things? Every single solution that could have somehow that could at some point be resolved could have been resolved if Jimmy just let Jay pin Roman.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been it. That would have been it.
That's when I'm having confusion with this, because it's like, if Jimmy would have just let Jay get the win, like, we wouldn't be having all these issues. We wouldn't be having all these problems. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about, you know, because then at that point, and again, this is the storyline that I have been waiting for the entire time. If you remember a long time ago, I'm the one that said that the bloodline is really about Jay and Sammy, but
the storyline day one.
But the storyline that I have been dying to see, like the thing that I wanted to see most, the thing that I hoped we saw after WrestleMania 39, because I wanted to see Cody win there. But I had always hoped for the redemption of Roman Reigns. Like I have this idea of, you know, here's Roman Reigns. Now he has no more bloodline, no more family, no more wise man, no more title, no more relevancy, and he's on that island all by himself. What does he do? How does he come back from that? And that's the story I want to see. And I think we've gotten to a point now where, you know, I have to say that I think the bloodline storyline now, at least as it relates to Roman Reigns' championship reign, is we're now talking about missed opportunities, because we have now had two opportunities. Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39, and listen, when the Cody Rhodes thing went down, and I was just listening to an episode of Busted Open the other day where they were talking about this, and Dave LaGreca said, listen, you guys told me that everything was going to be fine, everything was going to be okay, just trust the process, this stuff.
Such a great video, man.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, like, so Dave says, I want to know, because he had Mark Henry and Bully Ray, and they were the ones that convinced him that everything was going to be okay. And he said, I want to know what you guys think. Is it still going to be okay? And Mark Henry said everything's going to be fine, and he went through his explanation, which was fine. And then it came to Bully Ray, and Bully Ray takes a second and then says to Dave LaGreca, I was totally wrong. Cody is effed. So listen, and so we've gone through that. We've gone through Cody. That was a perfect opportunity, because listen, they talked about how like Cody could be built up more, and Cody had to go through hard times, and I get all of that.
No,
and I think,
I do, but I don't. I think he was already built up by that point. So like, what more could they have done to push him to the highest? He was already at the highest he could have gone by the time the match happened.
Yeah, but look at you can see what they were talking about though, because look at how much bigger and how much more of a star Cody has become since then. He has become a baby face, I think, honestly, bigger than he was then. So I get that side of it. However, you are never going to recapture the moment you had at 39. No matter what they could do with Cody, no matter how big they make him, you're never going to find a moment that's going to hit that perfect crescendo of the feud. You're just never going to do it. So that's number one. Then you had the perfect moment with Jay, and you didn't pull the trigger there either. So like, eventually, I get if they want to get Reigns past Hogan, whatever, if that's like a Vince McMahon thing, because in the end, in the long run, Vince is probably still not a fan of Hogan, probably still has resentment for everything that went down between the two of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Vince thing where Vince is saying, you know what, let's just get him past Hogan so he's above Hogan on the list, because it's a dig at Hogan, which I get what he's doing. I don't agree with it either, but I guess I could understand in Vince McMahon's convoluted mind why he would do this. But here's the thing. I feel like, and this is something we'll talk about in a little bit, but I feel like if Vince leaves WWE, we might see a change, and we might see it quickly.
In that same vein about Cody, let me ask you this now, because there's a different clip from Busted Open Radio that I absolutely love, because Dave has such a passion when he talks about certain things. He gets so into it.
The rants.
Dude, some of his rants are the best, but this one specifically, I want to hear your comments on, because he said in the same vein that he feels like The Rock going on the Pat McAfee show and saying how Mania 39 was supposed to be him and Roman Reigns, it was locked in.
Yeah.
And he says how that was completely disrespectful to Cody, because that was Cody's night. That was supposed to be Cody's night. They had built it up so strong, only for The Rock to say it was going to be his night. And the only reason why they didn't do it was because The Rock couldn't do it. And in that same vein, I saw that apparently Cody is no longer the priority priority for WrestleMania 40. It might now be The Rock and Roman. So we might not get a chance to see that story even end now, because The Rock came back. What are your thoughts on that?
All right. So, I mean, I agree with him to a point, because I see both sides of it. I mean, as a professional wrestler, you've got to promote yourself. And if you're The Rock, obviously, listen, if anybody had any idea whatsoever that, there was even a chance that Rock and Roman was going to happen at WrestleMania 39, okay, that's one thing and everybody can understand it because it's The Rock, and, The Rock sort of transcends everything we're talking about here. But I do think, I mean, the point that I think Dave made after that, when they kind of got into the discussion a little bit more as to why he thought it was disrespectful, I kind of agree with him, because I feel like he could have said, you know what, WrestleMania 39, myself and Roman, it was a lock. It was supposed to happen. He tells the whole story. He gets to it and he says, but, at the last second, we couldn't make it happen. But we did get a really great main event. Cody Rhodes stepped up, and like, there's no reason he could not have said that. But again, I don't exactly know where the whole, where all of this kind of falls, because here's the thing that I'm thinking about, because this was another point that was brought up. It wasn't really discussed at length, but it was brought up. But can we really, because let's think about this now. If we're going to do Rock and Roman at 40, are we really going to have Rock win the title? Because
I wouldn't think so. I think it's just one more layer to add to the Reigns legacy of, I beat my own cousin, The Rock.
Are we really going to have Roman go over The Rock, though? I don't see that happening at all. I don't. But here's, there's a couple different things that can happen there. I mean, Roman could be the first guy to main event both nights of WrestleMania, because he could fight Rock one night and then defend the title the next night. Like, the match with him and Rock could simply be about, the head of the table. I mean, we could see the elders. The elders could come out and say, listen, no titles on the line. This isn't about titles. This isn't about anything but who's the head of the table, and there can only be one, and blah blah blah, yada yada. So
make it actual tribal combat. No no BS. Make it actual, like, just The Rock versus Roman, nobody else. Just have the elders at ringside just to watch, and actually follow your own rules.
And that's definitely one way to go about it. But here's my concern. So it was brought up, like, okay, so what if we put all of our eggs in one basket and we go with The Rock, and The Rock wins the title and all this stuff? If the only reason we have The Rock right now is because Hollywood's out of business. So when the writer's strike ends, like, Rock's number one priority is Hollywood. It's not wrestling anymore. So he's gonna go back to Hollywood. So do we put the title on him and then have that happen? Or we don't even know what's gonna happen with the writer's strike in Hollywood. That could end before 40. So what happens if we start this buildup where, the ultimate plan is going to be Rock and Roman at 40, and in like 3 months the Hollywood strike ends and everybody's going back to work? Well,
there you
go. Now we're really screwed. So I don't, as much as I want to see Rock and Roman at 40, I don't think it's the smart thing to do. But as was brought up on Busted Open Radio, it's all about the money. It's all about the almighty dollar, and the money match is Rock and Roman. The money is Rock at 40.
Yeah, I think that would make the most sense if you have, like you said, Roman and Rock for the head of the table on one night, no belts on the line, and then you have, if you want to, do Roman Cody 2 for the belt on night 2, or whatever way you want to go. I would assume Roman and Rock would be night 2, because it's the bigger marquee match, and then you have Cody and Reigns night 1. Because I hate to say it, you're right. Roman and Rock is the money match, so that would have to be night 2.
But again, this is epidemic of exactly what we've been talking about. This is all a big mess spilling out of, like, the bloodline, for as great as this story has been, it keeps having these messy things spill out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure what, I don't know. The whole thing is just very confusing to me. It doesn't seem to be getting any better. It doesn't seem to be resolving itself in any manner. It just seems to be like the more and more you poke holes at it, the more holes show up.
Yeah,
And I
of
just,
course.
they could have ended this thing already, and it would have been
Yeah,
great.
you went over.
And
Mhm.
yeah, so
All
yeah,
right,
that's
so let's play matchmaker or Booker for a second, if you will, because
okay.
you seem very good at like that mindset of like how you would book things. So I'm curious because you've been touting how this has been Sammy and Jay the whole time, right? And now
Right,
Jay's on Raw. How
right.
would you book bringing that story back on Raw? How would you do it?
Um, oh, well, I think what's going to probably end up happening is you know, I think that Jay is eventually going to win the title. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Jay goes after the title at Mania, because I think we can let things slowly ride, because I think they've got to build the story of Jay on Raw. I don't think we're there yet. I think,
No.
I think there's a lot of layers to see what happens, because I look at I kind of look at the whole Jay storyline as being like completely separate from the bloodline now. Like I feel like we have to do
It is.
more.
Yeah.
I feel like we have to do more to build this idea of Jay on Raw. And so I
Mhm.
think what they need to do is they need to really sort of build this whole thing up. And I think, and again, like this is going to sound like it's borrowing from other storylines and different things,
Yeah.
but I think that the locker room is going to continue to be mad at Jay. It seems like right now the only one that's like really cool with Jay besides Cody is Sammy. Like
Yeah.
Kevin's not. So what I
I think
think we
that's been
do,
my favorite part so far is that throughout all of this storyline, throughout all of the abuse that Sammy's gotten, Sammy still has respect and love for Jay. After all that they've been through, he still
yeah.
has that love as a brother for Jay.
So what I would do is I would build this thing right up to Mania, and as we're heading into Mania, I would have Sammy continuously over and over again butt heads and be at odds with people over his siding with Jay. And I think
Yeah.
the biggest one that he's going to butt heads with is going to be Kevin. And the two of
Yeah.
them are going to be butting heads, and Sammy's going to be like, listen, I know Jay, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. So what I think is going to happen is I think that eventually there's going to be some sort of contender for the title. I would say if we make Jay champion at some point, let's have there's two ways we could do it. One, we could have him win the title before Mania, and then have Kevin Owens be his opponent at Mania for the title. That would
Okay.
be one. That would be one way to do it. Uh, and then Sammy would side with Jay because because Kevin is being irrational about it, and Sammy still thinks there's good in Jay and all this blah 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 stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then we get to Mania, and it's Jay and Kevin. Uh, they're having their match, and as we get towards the end, Sammy comes running down and turns on Jay and helps Kevin win the title. Sammy turns heel.
Oh.
So that's
Okay.
one way to do it.
Okay.
But the other way to do it is to have you know, Jay win the title at Mania. Kevin still be upset over the whole thing. We have the next night on Raw. Jay has his he's announced as the new champion. He comes out and gives a promo, and Sammy comes out to congratulate him, and as Sammy's congratulating him, Kevin interrupts, and Kevin comes down, and Sammy convinces Kevin, finally that everything is great with Jay, and they're all happy friends, and they're all standing in the ring celebrating and raising their
Yeah.
arms, and then Sammy comes
Yep.
up from underneath and gives him the low blow, and the whole thing was,
Oh.
and that leads to the Sammy and Jay feud over the title. So there's two different ways they could go about it. Those are
Okay.
the two ways I would do it.
Both of those ways I can definitely see. I would love to see Sammy turn heel but turn on Kevin instead of Jay. I think that would be a really cool way of doing it. Is that because in storyline Kevin's always the one that turns heel, right? He's always the one
Oh
that
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, he's the one that always turns on
backstabs.
Sammy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the one that always backstabs his friends. But the one time you have Sammy do it to Kevin, and then it's a whole other layer to that story, as well as the Sammy and Jay story.
Yeah. There's definitely I mean, it would be interesting. There's a whole lot of things. There's a whole lot of things we could see there. I mean, for that matter, Jay could turn on Sammy and side with Kevin. Like, wouldn't that be a shock? And then everybody would be like, wow, like, Sammy's been trying to make friends with Jay, but Jay and Kevin have been in on this since the beginning.
Screw you, man.
Yeah, there's so many ways they could go with it.
Wild.
But I think ultimately it's going to come down to, Jay and Sammy again. So that's kind of how I would go about it.
Yeah, I think that's better than what I would ever think of, because I feel like I don't have the Booker mindset, where I feel like as you have a better kind of sense of how you would book things with, like, if you had your own show. I mean you used to run, like, you helped run a show back in the day, right? So you sort of had that mindset.
Yeah, I did help run an indie for a while. So yeah, I just, I think about things that I'd like to see, like things that jump into my head that are like, okay, well, there's an opportunity for this, or, I just think about things I'd like to see. So it's I don't know, things just come to me. I'm better at on the fly booking, I would say, rather than like, I'm not the kind of person that could sit down and probably like plan out 6 months of storytelling, but each week I could probably
you're like, no, what's going to happen tomorrow?
Right. Each week I could come up with something different. So yeah. Yeah, so that's what I would do. So yeah, the Bloodline storyline definitely needs some fixing. I think we're kind of
shape up.
It's because we're getting to the point where we're starting to reach, like, Horace Hogan and Vincent joining the NWO. Like, we're starting to get to that point where and I don't mean people are joining the Bloodline. I just mean we're getting to a point where the storyline has run so long that it's just it's kind of branching out in ways that is just making it worse than making it better. And I think that's where we're at right now.
I mean, I'm still with you with the whole idea of bringing in more guys. Like, you have some of the other Samoan family members that you could easily bring in and add to the group, and that could work under Roman as like the new Usos. Not really the Usos, like the new two big men. Like, you have, like, say you get all the Usos out. Say Solo goes out, Jay goes out, Jim goes out. What's left? Reigns like, aha, I have an idea. And he pulls in a Fatu or, whoever. And then, boom, you have more Bloodline members. Because they're out there.
Yeah, there's so many problems between WWE and MLW right now that there's no way that they could get Jacob Fatu. But I would say that, like, if I was MLW, I would start having Jacob Fatu talk about, like, I would just have him casually mention how, like, he's the head of the, like, I just have him casually mention that in a promo.
Start saying it,
I was, he could say something like, I was at home the other day, and I was late for dinner and everybody was already seated and I didn't know where to sit, but there was only one chair left and it happened to be over at the head of the table. So I just sat down because I was like, well, this chair feels like it fits. Like, I would say something ridiculous like that, like
genius.
something that becomes viral on social media immediately. Like, that's the promo I would cut. But I wouldn't even do it like as a promo by itself. I would have him casually say it while he's doing a promo about something else and then never talk about it again.
And then never explain it. Just drop it.
No, and then the less he talks about it, like, and then wait a couple months and do it again. Like, just be like, I had a meeting at the bank the other day because I was trying to buy a car, and I went into the boardroom and I needed somewhere to sit, and there was only one chair left in there, and it was down at the end of the table. I think it was maybe the head of the table. And I sat down there for the meeting, and, you know, I sat in that chair and everything went perfectly. It was like everybody was listening to me. Everybody was doing what I said. Everybody looked at me like, oh, there's the guy sitting at the head of the table. Let's listen to him. And then I just drop it and never say anything again.
You never say anything. Yeah, dude, that's like that. So good. That'd be so good.
See, I know places like MLW don't want to acknowledge WWE because I understand the issues there. And it's the same thing like with AEW and WWE acknowledging each other. And I get it, but like little stuff like that, little jabs. I'd even, you know, if I was Jacob Fatu, I'd go on Twitter and just, you know, tweet a story about it. Like, and just tweet something and let's see what happens. Like, I would be doing all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Stuff, yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So, all right.
So in keeping with more current events, there was another big announcement that they had over this last week about their shows. What was their big announcement, Ralph?
All right. So first off, we get the announcement that in October of 2024, SmackDown will be leaving the Fox network, which we all knew was coming because we all knew Fox did not want to pay what WWE wanted. So the big question was, where was SmackDown going to go? Well, it finally came out that SmackDown is going to go to the USA Network in October of 2024. And in that announcement, they also made a really interesting statement where WWE is now also going to produce 4 specials a year for NBC. So we're going to see WWE returning back to the network television on NBC. So that'll be interesting to see what they do there. You know, whatever they kind of do, whatever they've done in the past. I mean, honestly, I would love to see them, you know, do some Saturday night main events again, because I think the whole Saturday night main event thing is so cool.
Those are fun.
But so I believe, and don't quote me on this, and if I'm wrong, don't yell at me. But I believe the deal was for $1.3 billion, which was a lot less than what I think WWE was looking for from Fox. I'm not 100% sure because it was this. That's the number that I heard, because part of the issue was, and again, this is something we'll get into. We're not talking about this immediately, but the releases. Everybody was shocked at the releases coming, you know, the same day as this huge announcement in the morning where they're making all this money. Yeah. So as that news sort of sank in about SmackDown going back to USA, the word started to come out about what could possibly happen to Raw and NXT. And so as it turns out that Raw and NXT will probably be leaving the USA Network, and I believe as of right now, it looks like the big players in the market for at least Monday Night Raw that I know of, surprisingly, is Disney Plus, and I believe Amazon Prime is the other big name that's looking at them, because there have been rumors for some time that if things did not work out, WWE may actually look to go the streaming route, which, you know, as we talked about, well, it is. And here's the thing: as we talked about the SmackDown deal, all these other little things came out, like what was happening with Raw and NXT. Then somebody posted online, and it actually was answered on Twitter by Hulu. All the, I believe September 26th, all the WWE content expires on Hulu. So Hulu did confirm that they will no longer be carrying WWE programming.
No more.
So, you know, all these little things it's a huge shakeup. I think that WWE is long overdue to go the streaming route with their programming for a number of reasons. One, overruns will never be a thing again, and they can pretty much go as long as they want. Same thing. I mean, same thing with the PLEs. You know, they could pretty much run Raw or SmackDown or whatever. Obviously, SmackDown's going to USA, but they could run Raw or NXT for as long as they wanted. I really used to like when NXT was a WWE Network exclusive.
Yeah, that was great.
I always thought it was much better. I thought it was a much better show. Obviously, it's a different product now from what it was then, but I still think that the quality of the shows and just there was a feel to getting together with a bunch of friends on a Wednesday night and watching NXT on the WWE network. You felt like you were a part of something exclusive.
Yeah, it felt important. Like, especially because you had NXT UK on there too, which NXT UK as an exclusive was so good. The matches were so
They were
good.
good.
I think they were the best wrestling to come out of the Thunderdome era. When they had their own little BT Sport arena for the UK. Oh man, that stuff was just top notch.
Yeah, the talent on NXT UK was unbelievable. And again, it had a whole feel to it because it felt like you were, like you said, special is a great word. It felt like we were, listening to or watching something very special, something exclusive. And I miss that feeling. So I wouldn't mind seeing NXT going back to being like a streaming exclusive. But I always felt like Raw and SmackDown should be streaming simply because I don't think people should be penalized from watching wrestling simply because they don't have cable. And I always felt that was a real issue. And I feel like this is the way that things are going to start going in the future. I feel like AEW is probably going to end up on Max at some point.
Yeah.
And I think it's the right move though, because I mean, I can probably name the number of people that are like friends of mine that I know have cable, but I don't think I can name a single friend that I know of that isn't on streaming. So it's the way to go. It's the future. I mean, obviously there's a lot of issues with streaming right now, and this is stemming from, the writers' strike and all these things. But I feel like streaming is the future for everybody. I see, like terrestrial television sort of going away at some point. It may never go away completely, but it's going to be like, the difference between, terrestrial radio and satellite radio. And everybody says, well, why should I have to pay for music? Well, you don't, but when you do pay for music, you not only get things like stations of the type of music that you want to listen to, rather than listening to whatever a DJ on a radio station decides he wants to play that day, but you also get things like talk shows. You also get podcasts. You also get live sports. You get things. I'm sorry. If anybody wants to sit down and seriously debate the worth and the quality of, paying $12.99 a month for Sirius Radio, you're out of your mind. And that's how I feel about streaming stuff too. I mean, that's just how I feel about streaming too. I don't know. It's just, for me, I think it's the way wrestling needs to go. I would not be, I mean, think about this though. Let's think about what if YouTube gets in the game? Because YouTube already has NFL Sunday Ticket. So what if they decide they want to get in the game and they want to get, wrestling for their YouTube TV? What if Apple wants to get in the game? Apple's already in with Monster Factory.
Yeah, they already have that.
Big shout out to Danny Cage and all the great people at the Monster Factory.
For an award. This show is up for an award, by the way.
Yeah. So you've got Apple TV with the Monster Factory. You've got Netflix with wrestlers. Shout out to Al Snow and everybody at OVW. Fantastic. Stars has heels. Let me just say this.
Everywhere. It's everywhere.
I know this is a rant, but if you're not watching Heels, you need to be watching Heels. They just finished their second season. That show is amazing. Stephen Amell is awesome. You got to get in on it. It is an amazing show. It might be one of the best shows done about wrestling. It really is phenomenal. Anyways, I think streaming is the way that everybody needs to eventually go. But that was just part of the shakeup this week. And then something came out of that, something very interesting. And this is in relation to Vince McMahon, who may be gone soon. So there was an SEC filing that has shed some light on Vince McMahon, and that he may want out or TKO may want him out of the organization, because apparently his 28.84 million TKO shares, which is valued at about $3 billion, could be up for sale soon, and he might not have a choice about that. He does not have the same I guess no sale clause or whatever it is that the other employees have. And there have been some internal rumblings apparently within TKO that, based on the fact that he is still under investigation by the federal government. So, there are some internal rumblings within TKO that this could be a very bad situation for them. So we could be seeing Vince McMahon ostensibly gone from the world of professional wrestling as we know it soon. We just don't know. But this is a big thing
right now.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying with the Roman Reigns thing, because if Vince is gone and Roman still having his title is really a Vince thing, who knows what could happen after Vince is gone? Who knows what they could do? They could make the change right away.
Now, side note here, because I don't know if Vince will actually give it up. I don't think. The only way I can see Vince getting up is just because he wants his money and then he goes. But in that same sort of who knows question, talking about like where all the shows go, I don't think I can fathom Raw moving to another date. I just can't. Hearing Tuesday Night Raw or Thursday Night Raw or even Wednesday Raw, it just doesn't sound the same as Monday Night Raw. Can you fathom them actually trying to move the date from Monday to something else?
So I understand that, because I would feel the same way. Here's the thing, though. I feel like, again, this might have to do with a lot to do with Vince at this point. And my reasoning for that is that I really feel like this mystique of Monday Night Raw, this reverence of Monday Night Raw, I think a lot of that is being held on to by Vince McMahon. So I'm willing to bet that if Vince McMahon is gone, all things are up for all scenarios are possible. And what I think would have to happen at this point, I don't think you could simply move Raw to another night. I think you would have to have a rebranding of Raw, as it were. I would think that they would want to rebrand it into something else. But if they're going to do anything, to be honest, they've got to move it to Wednesday night, especially if they're going to go streaming. They've got to move it to Wednesday night, because they've got to go head to head with Dynamite. They've got to, because that's going to bring excitement for one. But think about how many people you're going to reach now if you go streaming. People are already trying to, see Dynamite how they can. People are trying to see Monday Night Raw how they can if they don't have cable. And then now you're putting Raw on a streaming service where you're saying to people, okay, guess what? Well, now on Wednesday night, you have a choice between Raw and Dynamite, and we're giving you an easy way to watch Raw. I think that would help boost Raw's ratings significantly immediately out of the gate. So I think that's a real good way to kind of go about it if you're going to do it. But I do think they're going to have to totally rebrand Raw. I don't think I could, like, Wednesday Night Raw, or I don't think I would be okay with that either.
Or what you can do, because it's still on the same vein, bring back Warzone.
Well, sure. Yeah, you could do something really cool like that. I mean, if I'm going to do that, and I don't know that WWE would ever do this, but if I'm going to do that, I go totally old school with it. I go back to old sets. I go back to I just go 100%, because you can do it in such a way that it's still old school, but it's like old school in the new era, like with all the technologies they have now. They could.
It's fresh. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. That just take what they did back then and just amplify it. Just make it bigger. Make it. I would be down for that. That would be my plan if I were going to do that, because that is a good idea, though. Going back to the Warzone name, and just that whole time in wrestling, because if you remember correctly, Raw wasn't just one show; it was two shows. The first hour was Raw's War, and the second hour was the Warzone.
Yeah, Raw's War and the War. Yeah, exactly. And that was when when you saw that bottom like graphic, that's when it signaled the change of the show. Like the first hour,
Yeah,
you'd see Raw's
yeah,
War, and then you'd see the little copyright on the bottom, and then it would change to
mhm.
Warzone right after that.
There was actually a time where Warzone they'd come back from commercial and Warzone had its own entrance, like
Yeah,
its whole entrance video, and like
yeah,
they really, they did pyro again, and they really made it seem like it was two separate shows. And the reason that they did that was because I believe at the time they had a deal with USA Network where up until the 10 o'clock hour there were only certain things that they could show on screen. So then
yeah,
after the 10 o'clock hour,
yeah.
they were now allowed to be more of a you know,
Edgier
edgier, mature
show.
product than
Hmm.
they were like the PG era that they had to be during the 9 o'clock hour. So that's why they went with two separate shows. And it was brilliant. Obviously, with streaming, you won't have any of those concerns now. But there's so many things that they could do with streaming. And just think about, streaming. And here's I think where some of the issues may fall in, but I don't know how all of this plays out. But
Hmm.
with streaming, you've got it live every week streaming, but then you could possibly have the ability to watch things on demand. And I don't know how that's gonna fall with any sort of deal they may already have with Peacock based on the network, because they don't have like super current episodes of Raw, but they do have like previous episodes of Raw. So who knows? Maybe Peacock could add Raw as a live show every week.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
There's so
I,
many
I wouldn't
possibilities.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, again, like if you get like AEW on the Max, or you get like
Yeah.
the other shows on the stream service, that's where you can. Like I've always wanted to, even when the network first started, I always wanted to be Raw goes live Monday, and then the next day it's on there for replay. But they
Hmm.
wouldn't do that. What they would do is they would slowly catch up by like weeks and weeks back, and then they would slowly add them. But I feel like if you add it to streaming service and then play it the next day, then you have the value of, hey, I can just watch it Tuesday if you missed it on Monday.
Yeah, because currently, having the replay of it would probably interfere with some TV rights they have. And again, like when you look at Hulu was specifically, next day. But the thing about
Yeah.
Hulu, though, if you ever watched Raw or SmackDown on Hulu, you're not getting the whole programming.
No, you like
They
it
are they are
like
cutting
3.5
it down.
of it. Oh yeah. Cut
Yes,
it
you're
down
getting
by
an
a lot.
abbreviated version. You don't get to
Yeah.
see everything. So you're not even really getting the whole program there anyways. So
No.
yeah, I definitely think that streaming is the way for all of it to go eventually. I'm hoping that, I really hoped that when they started the WWE network that Raw and SmackDown were going to move over there. That was my hope.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, right?
it would have, but we did not get that. So
Do you
unfortunately,
remember when SmackDown was on Sci-Fi?
I do. I there yeah. There's been a lot of weird things.
It's surprising. SmackDown's changed more times than I think any other show really out there. They've been on My Nine, UPN, Sci-Fi, USA, Fox.
Yeah,
They've changed so many times that they haven't had as a steady of a home as Raw has in its long history.
they have not. Yeah, it's crazy, but who knows what's going to happen from here? Obviously, SmackDown is going to USA next October. I'll be interested to see what happens. For the first show, because if you remember correctly, when Raw went to TNN, which at first was the Nashville network and then became Spike.
Yep.
When Raw went over there, when they came back to USA had a huge homecoming episode.
Oh yeah.
It was a big deal. All the McMahons were there. Stone Cold was there. I believe that's the night he stunned everyone in the McMahon family.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
but it was this big, huge thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when SmackDown goes back there, if they get the sort of red carpet treatment. It'll be interesting to see if they stay on Friday nights. Will they stay at 2 hours? Who knows? There's all kinds of things up in the air.
Yeah.
They could do all kinds of things with it.
I still think that they need to put Raw back to 2 hours. I mean, I don't mind doing when they had like the Raw Super Show and they had the special every once in a while, but
Yeah.
don't do 3 hours is so long for a TV show. It's too long. You need
Yeah.
to do 2 hours. It goes by quick. It's quick. It's simple. You can still get as much story in 2 hours as you can 3 hours. I mean, look at AEW with Dynamite and Collision. They pack 2 hours in with so much story.
Yeah.
They don't need a third hour. Like, they have it down pat. Like, WWE needs to go back to doing Raw 2 hours, SmackDown 2 hours, and even if they wanted to, they can do NXT for an hour and still have it be a good show, even if it's just an hour. Like, they could do that and still make it work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's time that they do go back to the 2 hours, because it's just it is a lot, and especially if you're if the and I mean the draft kind of they kind of kept people separate to a point, but if you're using only half the roster and you're trying to build 3 hours on just half the roster, I don't know. The 3 hour thing worked for a time, but you're right. It's time to go back to just the 2 hours. It's time.
It's just for casual people. They don't want to watch a 3 hour show.
No, that's
especially after work. Like, a long day at work, and I had to sit for 3 hours and watch a full show. Like, that's just so much time where they can be doing other things. Where 2 hours, it's a perfect combination of what's you have a story plus wrestling, weave it in and out. I feel like nowadays with Raw, even when they first started doing 3 hours, the 1 hour always seemed kind of lost. Like, they didn't know what to do with an extra hour.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's it's time to go back to 2. There's no doubt. All right. So, we've kind of gotten through some of the topics that have gone down this week, but we're really kind of just getting started here with the big topic that went down this week.
Oh yeah.
And
the topic of the week.
That is the WWE releases. Another a Black Thursday has befallen the wrestling world again, and we are going to go down the list of releases and give you our opinions about what we think went down, what we think is going to happen, and who we think is going to end up where. But before we do that, why don't we take ourselves a little break here, and we will take a break. And while we're doing that, check out our sponsor and our brand new ad for our sponsor, and we will be back shortly after the break.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Introducing Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, your ultimate destination for all things wrestling nostalgia. At Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, they don't just sell items, they curate memories. Whether you're a fan of the classic era or modern showdowns, they've got something for everyone. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles sells DVDs, books, magazines, action figures, and so much more. So stop on down to Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, where every piece tells a story and every fan becomes a part of the legacy. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is conveniently located inside Mother Truckers Antiques and Collectibles, located at 566 North Reading Road in Ephrata, PA. Stop on by Thursday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., or give them a call at 717-405-0153. Find them on social media at Ref Larry's WC. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is a proud sponsor of the Opinion City podcast. And now, back to the show. All right, and we are back.
We are back for the main event of the evening. It's kind of a sour main event this week, just because of the events that have occurred over the past week. We had a slew of WWE releases over the fact of one day. Again, during the massive announcement, at the same time as they're saying that they've won this big deal, they decided to just cut a big chunk of the roster. So we decided that we're going to do a top 5 and kind of see where each one can go, will go, might go after the release, and because there were a lot of big names as well as the small names on this list as well.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't even know really what to say. I mean, this is, not everybody was a huge superstar that's on this list. Let's be completely honest.
No.
Not everybody's a name you're going to know, but it's still somebody with a job, somebody with a career. And for 20 people to be let go in one day, it's just a lot. It is. But yeah, so let's take a look at the list. Let's look at some of the bigger names that are really coming out of this list. And interestingly, sure, go right ahead.
Because I don't know about you, but when they first came out of this new gimmick, I was such a fan of it because it was silly, and you know how we are here with Opinion City. We love silly, yes. We love fun. It makes wrestling more enjoyable when it's not as serious. And the Maximum Male Models were just a fun group. I was so excited to see where they were going to go, and to see Mace and Mansoor go, I was sad. I was very sad.
So I 95% completely disagree with what you just said. I will say that I am sad to see them go, only for the fact that I believe that they were two talents that never really got an opportunity to do anything. I feel like they got saddled with two impossible gimmicks to get over. Because number one, Retribution did, and never will go anywhere. Retribution was terrible from the beginning, did not get any better. Thankfully and mercifully it ended. However, they then got saddled with this gimmick of the Maximum Male Models, and I will say that yes, indeed, it was silly, and it was fun, and it was all of those things. However, I don't feel like I see them ever really being taken seriously after doing that. So I feel like they got saddled with some gimmicks that didn't necessarily let them have the opportunity for the careers that they could have had, let them showcase their talents in a way that I feel like people will appreciate or really see. I feel like they were the male version of the old Divas popcorn match, where or the bathroom break. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying, and I'm not saying anything against anybody. I'm not putting down Divas or anything like that. But we all know that there were Divas matches back in the day that were not given the proper time, effort, build up, or talent, where it was just like, okay, there's nothing here I need to see, because I know these are two talented women, but I also know they're not being taken seriously by the company. So I can just go to the bathroom, or I can go get popcorn or whatever. And I feel like the Maximum Male Models hit that fairly frequently. I feel bad for them. I'm excited to see what happens with them, because they really seem to be extremely interested in getting out on the indies and doing something cool. I did see that they have teased that they are thinking about using the name Maximum Retribution as a tag team, which I think would be great.
See, that would be awesome, as long as they don't do either attire of either the dress or like the masks. Just don't do either of those things.
No,
will be good.
Those were not good.
I just don't know why. Like, so real quick about Retribution. I want to go on tangent, but real quick about Retribution. They had two big names with Mia Radim and Dijak Dijakovic, right? And you named them Mason T-Bar. Like, Dijak was already a name in NXT, a huge name. And when it's had to call him up, they call him T-Bar and completely derail his whole push as Dominic. Like, that's just, I'm sorry, rant over. Just, Dijak deserved better at the time, and he didn't. I'm happy that Dijak is now back and better than ever, but for the time, he got T-Bar, and it wasn't good.
Well, think about Maya Yim. Think about her. Think about her indie career. Think about the fact that she was in the Mae Young Classic. Like, to do that to her, that they didn't do anybody any favors with that Retribution gimmick. But these two got the short end of the stick twice, and so I wasn't really a big fan of anything that they did with them. But again, this is a case where I think we've seen some wrestlers that have been really given pretty terrible gimmicks to work with, and have had to try to shine through talent-wise, because they're not the
Yep.
only ones on the list that have gone through that. I mean, so
No.
look at the former commander Aziz. I mean, here's a guy who we
Yeah.
really don't know a whole lot about. This guy could be like
No.
this guy could be like ultra talented, but nobody's going to give him a second thought because he's gotten terrible gimmicks.
Well, if you recall, they debuted him by being Dabba-Kato during Raw Underground back during
Yes.
COVID.
Yeah. So I mean, again, a guy that got nothing. But then we start to get to some of the other names on the list that are kind of in the same boat. And some of this is like guys that were like mirrored in the mid card, but you look at guys like Rick Boogs. Okay, obviously they did something interesting with him with Nakamura, but it didn't do anything for his wrestling career.
No.
That gimmick just went nowhere. Riddick Moss, here's a guy who again has he sheltered through terrible gimmicks, and finally it seemed like they were going to give him an opportunity or some kind of push, because this last time when he ditched the Madcap Moss gimmick, he was really serious about it. Like he was on social media pushing the change, and I thought we were going to see something from him, but obviously they had no thought whatsoever about him. They just were ready to push him to the side.
All right. So then let's go down the list. We'll do our top 5. We'll start with yours. If you have a number 5, and what are your predictions, and where do you think they're going to go?
All right. So if I'm looking at the list, and I want to throw 2 things out there before we get into our top 5. Number 1 is that the majority of these releases all came on Thursday, the 21st. However, there is we did not find out about Matt Riddle until the following day. Now, the Matt Riddle had been off of TV for some time, and I'm sure we'll be talking about Matt Riddle before this episode is over, but we did not find out about him until the 22nd. And then word came out that actually Shanky, who appeared on the Super Show over in India, was apparently fired the day after the Super Show, and that information did not come out until all the other releases.
Yeah, that's crazy. That they're like, all right, sweet, you need a show, you're fired.
Yeah, seriously.
What is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so if I'm looking at the list here and I'm being completely honest, I'm going to start off my number 5. I think that Emma still has a lot left in the tank. I think that Emma can really I think there's a lot to her, and part of the problem with Emma is, again, if you look at what WWE did with Emma was a the gimmick that she had in NXT was kind of goofy and silly.
Yeah, it was silly.
But it got over, and it got her over. And I feel like even though that gimmick was goofy and silly, I think that she was a victim of the NXT call-up curse. I think that when she got called up, they never really did anything with her. And even, even this last time that they brought her back, there was such high hopes. Hers was probably the saddest tweet of all time, because she had posted earlier in the morning how excited she was about Elimination Chamber going to Australia and being on that show. And then she retweeted that with her I'm no longer with WWE. Yeah, that was hurtful.
Soul crushing. Yeah.
But if I look at this list and I'm looking at for example, the female stars that are on this list, I think that Emma has the most upswing out of anybody. I feel like she could easily go to another organization like Tomorrow and get started. I don't know if I necessarily think that she should be in AEW. I feel like the problem with AEW is I feel like sometimes AEW is so big that even though talents go there, they fall through the cracks. I would like to see Emma go to Impact and get a solid run in Impact, because they've got some really talented females in Impact that I think, even if Emma were to go away and come back in AEW after a long stint in Impact, or even, just go to Impact or do an indie run, and then kind of get the Drew McIntyre treatment when she comes back. Like, hey, I went away as somebody that you didn't see much in, and look at me now. So I think there's a lot of upside for Emma.
It's funny because Emma, before she came back, was her real name in Impact. She debuted as Tenille Dashwood, and she made a name for herself as Tenille. I was more surprised. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised. It's WWE, but I'm more surprised that they didn't just keep that name and bring her back. But of course, they already had Emma established, so they just brought back Emma. But so was Dashwood. Dashwood was an established name because of what she did in the ring. But instead, they went back to Emma, and Emma had no story and still didn't when she came back.
Yeah, just a sad waste of talent. And I think she could have been, because I think that sometimes we see WWE getting some of these talents, and there is a real talent recognition problem, I think, when it comes to females in WWE. I mean, Tegan Nox should be on TV killing it. She should have had a banger of a match with Becky Lynch a couple weeks ago, when she got pulled, because the story was that they gave it to Natalya because she filled in for Becky on the India show because Becky couldn't go. So whatever the deal was, like, they just have a real recognition problem with females. So that's my number 5. I think she's gonna end up killing it somewhere. And if she does go the indie route, I love the tweet from Matt Cardona this week, who spit out support to all of the currently released superstars, just saying, listen, if there's a world out there for you, there's money to be made. If you want it, work for it. It's hard work, but it's worth it. I always go back to a statement that Colt Cabana made one time about how he was making a lot more money on the indies than he was in WWE. And that always rang true with me every time there was one of these releases where, it's tough because you're losing a job, especially if you're a little bit of a bigger name talent. You're not on the road anymore. You're not that steady income. But there's so many more things that you can do with yourself on the indies, how you can push yourself, how you can market yourself, how you can sell your merchandise. There's so much support out there for indie wrestlers right now. I feel like it's not the death sentence that it used to be, getting cut from WWE, although it does still suck, and I feel bad for every one of these people. So all right,
I feel the same way.
That's my number 5. What do you got?
All right, I'm starting my number 5 off with something big, just because it was one of the first names that they announced when they were doing the releases, and it's more shocking because he has or had a big match coming up literally next weekend at No Mercy, and now it's just been scrapped. And I'm not talking about Mustafa Ali, who was supposed to have a match on Sunday against Dominic Mysterio for the NXT North American title. And they didn't, I don't know if they even thought about that when they released him, but he had a story ready to go, and they just said, nope, you're released. So, now what do you do with Dominic? Now, how do you fix that match that you did so much time to build up for, only for it to lose one major player, and now who do you have face Dominic? How can you build a story in one show? Because they only have one show left before No Mercy. Yeah. How do you build a match with one show?
Yeah.
That one shocked me. Because, again, Ali was starting to get reestablished in NXT, only for them to pull to kind of pull the rug out from underneath him, and now he's just gone. I can see him going to either Impact or AEW in my mind.
I was not surprised by this one. I will say that we all know that Mustafa Ali asked for his release and was not granted it, and I feel like I don't necessarily 100% feel like the fences were ever really mended between him and WWE. So I think it was just,
I don't think so, no,
waiting for the right time. And honestly, I think once news of the sale came out and everything going through, I think he was just biding his time until it was time to move on. And I think there's a lot out there for him. I think working somewhere like Impact in the X division, I think would be great for him. I could see him.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see him doing big things in either Impact or AEW. But I think he's going to be a big talent on the indie scene. I think he's going to get a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities in places where WWE simply just did not see it for him. So I think he's, you know, of anybody on this list, I think that he probably has, I don't want to say the most upside, but I think the most maybe excited potential is what I would say, simply because he's been waiting for so long, and I think he's been ready for it, and I think he's probably had his next moves set up. You know, it's like a chess match. He's 10 moves ahead. Like, he's been
Oh
ready,
yeah.
waiting for so long. So I think he's probably the one that I would say has like the biggest excited potential, um, at least in my mind. But yeah, he's a big one though. That is an absolute big name. But I just, based on the fact that I knew that he had already asked for his release, it didn't surprise me that much. Um, you know, there's different people in charge now, so that maybe they just finally decided, you know what, if he wants to go, let's not worry about the headache. Let's just let him go.
Yeah. You know where I can see him kind of fitting into?
Where
The LVAC.
I would not, okay, so I would not be surprised, honestly, to see some of these names pop up there. I would not be surprised at all. I think that the East Coast independent wrestling scene is super hot. There's a lot of great talented companies
Yeah.
on the East Coast that are doing great things. They're streaming. They're on, you know, they're running great shows. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to see some of these guys really kind of uh, cut their teeth and make their name, so to speak, again on the indie scene. So I think there's a lot of excitement in that. But yeah, Mustafa Ali would be fantastic. I'll be interested to see you know, what kind of gimmick he runs with after this. Like I said, I'm sure he's
Yeah.
had everything planned.
Oh, I'm sure his new gear is like ready to go.
Yeah. All right. Um, so again, just mulling over this list, I think for my number 4, I am going to go with the man who, again, this is a guy that I feel like he had a great gimmick. So it wasn't that he didn't have a good gimmick. I just, you know, I think that there are times where creative just loses sight of what they really have. And I think this is a great example, because I think that they could have simply refreshed his gimmick a little bit, because I think it was a great gimmick. But, you know, WWE now stands for Walk Without Elias.
I was just
And
gonna say that.
I
Yeah.
just, you know, I don't know what to say about him, because, you know, he's talented, good,
So
bad, or
good.
otherwise. He knows how to connect with the crowd. You know,
Yeah.
the Elias concerts were, you know, obviously not Dominic Mysterio level, but they were getting, you know, significant reaction from the crowd
Yeah,
in
he
that
knew how to get a
heel
crowd
way.
going, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I don't, I just don't understand what happened, because I don't understand the whole Ezekiel thing. I know that like Vince wanted to change his gimmick for a long time, at least from what I've heard, and that was part of
Yeah.
why they did what they did and all these things. But I this is a guy I don't understand why they did what they did with him. I'll never get it.
Yeah. I mean, I not gonna lie, I loved like the Ezekiel and Owens going insane because he was determined to prove that Ezekiel was Elias. I thought that stuff was brilliant because seeing Owens get angrier and angrier and slowly lose his mind to me was just hilarious. Um, and he finally admitted that he was playing his brother.
Yeah.
He finally broke the news that yes, it was me, Austin. It was me all along.
Mhm. Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about though. Like, you just got done talking about how, you know, you loved the angle with him and Kevin Owens, and when you talked about that, all you talked about was Kevin Owens. So like you didn't say anything about Ezekiel because you love the part of it that Kevin Owens played in it. So like I think that they just
I'm just
wasted
an
him.
Owens. Well, I'm just an Owens stan, and what can I say? I've always been an Owens fan. But no, I think
but if you can't,
without Ezekiel playing his part, there would be no reaction from Owens. So I do give Elias the credit where it's due, because if he didn't play it so seriously and really believe that he wasn't Elias, and I think that without that role, Owens couldn't have bounced back with all of his reactions.
Yeah, but
Ezekiel,
was that because of Elias, or could we have had any wrestler do that kind of gimmick where they all of a sudden were pretending to be their brother? And would you have gotten the same reaction from Kevin Owens? I think you would have. I'm not saying that. I think that like they put him in gimmicks that didn't necessarily, like they put him in something that didn't necessarily play to his strengths. There was no reason to, like we could have done something else with Elias than done that, because I don't think it got him anywhere. I think it just, I don't know. It's, I think we're going to be talking about this with every one of our picks, but it's missed opportunities every time. And so, yeah, so I could see Elias having a great run. I could see him probably doing better in Impact than AEW, because I think in AEW he might be very mid card in AEW. I don't know if he'd be able to break through to that next level, but I think in Impact he could do very well.
I mean, with Impact you have sort of a little bit more creativity to kind of do what you want to do and kind of be yourself.
Yeah.
And with Elias, I feel like you have an opportunity to really lean into that whole musical talent. I am, the greatest thing of all time. I'm talented. I can sing, and really lean into that side of him in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so let's do your number 4.
My number 4, you'd think it would be higher on this list, but I mean, really, they weren't really doing anything with him, so which sucks because he's so talented still at the age that he is in. I feel like there's so much more in the tank with him. And I'm talking about the gold standard, Shelton Benjamin. I know they had nothing for him, which is crazy to even say that, but he hasn't been used in a while, and that also sucks. Because again, he's such a good talent that they are just like we've been saying, missed opportunity where they could have done so much with him, and they just didn't know what they had. Like he could have been multiple time champion world over by now. And always been is like I think a few times IC champion, and that was it. But he is such a talent, and I think he still has so much in the tank that like he could easily go to like an Impact or an AEW and just kill it over there.
I completely agree about Shelton Benjamin. I think he is probably honestly, he's the most talented person on this list. And I don't mean that as a slight against anybody else, but I think his talent is just up there in ways that are immeasurable. It is honestly unfathomable to think that he never won a Money in the Bank ladder match, because he was the superstar of everyone that he was in. His time in the world's greatest tag team, they really were the world's greatest tag team. Like that, I loved that tag team. They were so good together. And obviously, Shelton Benjamin turned out to be the breakout star of that. And just everything that he's done in his WWE career, he has always been just a step above the rest. And like you said, the fact that he, still does what he does at that age. However, I see him going to Ring of Honor.
Ooh,
I could see him doing well in Ring of Honor. I could see him maybe a mid-card title. I could see him challenging easily for the Ring of Honor championship. I could see him forming another tag team in Ring of Honor, because I think, we don't get to see enough of it on TV. We get to see bits and pieces of it here and there where Ring of Honor guys show up on AEW, but I think I think Ring of Honor is going to become one of those places where tag team wrestling really shines, and I think Shelton could probably do something really cool over there, put together another tag team.
Yeah, no, that's an option. I feel like though I don't think he is like a tag team guy, because I mean he has been in a lot of tag teams, but I feel like he should go for a solo run and finally actually show people that he can do a run and he has it what it takes to be a solo wrestler. yes, he's been playing good tag teams, and he has been, but he's also a
Mhm.
great singles guy. He just hasn't had the opportunity or the platform to do it.
Yeah. So I think that I think that if he wants to continue wrestling, I think he's got a lot of opportunities out there waiting for him.
Yeah, he's I don't know how you couldn't use him. I don't know how you couldn't think of something to do with him on either
Yeah,
show.
absolutely. All right. So my number 3 is going to be a little surprising. I
Okay.
think this is probably, if I had to look at this complete list and think of the person who has been done wrong the most and been done wrong more times than anyone else on this list. And again, this is probably going to be surprising that I put this person at my number 3, but
Okay.
I am going with Dana Brooke. I think Dana Brooke is talented.
Oh,
I think Dana Brooke has a lot more to offer than they give her the opportunity to. And I think she has been done wrong more than anybody else on this list. And I can tell you, I think that 100% she's going to get signed by AEW. And I think the
yeah.
reason that AEW is going to sign her, not only for her in ring talent, but because of everything she does outside of the ring. If you notice,
Yeah.
anytime they show something on WWE programming where WWE superstars are somewhere representing the company, reading to kids, doing Make-A-Wish. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what it is. Dana Brooke is there, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
She's like another Titus O'Neil. Like she is
Yeah.
everywhere doing everything. And with
Yeah.
everything that AEW does, I can see them easily picking her up. And honestly, I think it's going to take about a month. And then within a month's time, if they actually spent some time on her, they could turn her around within a month where she could be a legitimate title contender in AEW.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. I'm just gonna say it. That was my number 3 as well.
Oh,
Move
nice.
on. So yeah, it's just I agree with you 100%. I've always sort of been a closet Dana Brooke fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because I feel like she's a great talent, and even with the crappy gimmicks that they give her, she still,
Mm-hmm.
in my eyes, pulls it off the best she can and still makes it work. And I feel
Yeah.
like she was just getting like a career resurgence in NXT, and then all of a sudden she's released. Like she had
Yeah.
the chance to like reignite her career, reignite her character in NXT, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
make a name for herself, kind of like Mandy Rose did all those
Yeah.
last year. And instead, they're like, all right, no, we're gonna let you go. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Why why even try if you're not gonna actually try?
I have never once understood the WWE mentality toward Dana Brooke. They have they just have some reason where for whatever it is that they don't like her, and they haven't even like it's sad they haven't even really tried with her when
No.
when they do little things with her, like they put her in Titus Worldwide, and
Yeah.
that did nothing. She was just like,
Nope.
she'd stand on the ramp and hold the clipboard, and look
Yep.
good in her suit or whatever. I don't know. The whole they just I don't ever feel like they ever took her seriously. They
No.
never.
And like,
Again,
yeah.
this goes back to that recognition problem I brought up earlier with WWE and female talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
So
you're right. It's
I think she's going to go to AEW as soon as possible.
yeah. I think as soon as her 90-day no compete clause is up, we may see her sometime, maybe even at Revolution in February. That
Yeah,
would be a
maybe.
good place to debut her. That's because that would be beyond her 90 days, and then she could
Yeah.
have her big debut there and go from there. Yeah, I think Dana Brooke is another, as we always say, missed opportunity where they had the talent, they just didn't know what to do with her. And how could you
Hmm.
not know what to do with her?
Yeah.
Like,
For how long she was there. I mean, come on.
yeah, she was there for a long
That's just
time too. Like you know,
yeah. She's been there a long
she's
time.
she was there since 2013.
Yeah, it's
So
insane. So yeah, that's crazy. But I think she'll land on her feet, and I think she'll do okay. Again, if she wants to continue wrestling, I guess that's the big thing. That um, if she wants to keep going, I think she'll be fine. She'll land on her feet.
yeah, I'm sure as long as she still wants to do this and she still has the passion for it, she'll stay around and she'll keep doing what she's doing for sure.
Yeah. All right. Um, we're getting down to the bottom of the list here. My number 2 is someone who I don't think. So I do not think this person is going to have much of a career anywhere except for the Indies. I think this person is simply going
geez.
to have to go back to the Indies and just. I see them going back home and grinding it out on the Indies, and that would be Matt Riddle. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody with all the issues that he's had, with all the consistent issues that he's had, I think that see, I think he's in the same boat that CM Punk is. However, I don't see anybody taking a chance on Punk right now. I think people are going to distance themselves from him for a while. I don't see Indies even taking a chance. I don't think CM Punk would go back to the Indies, to be honest with you.
No, I
think he's way above that, and that's probably the only people that might ever take a chance on him. But Matt Riddle, I think, is going to probably go home to California and just get back on the indie scene. I'm sure we'll see him, PWG, maybe beyond. I think that there's a good opportunity within the next year or so. We will see him, maybe LVAC. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I'm sure they're going to take a shot at him. I don't know. See, the thing is, he's talented. Nobody's knocking his talent. Nobody's knocking anything about his gimmick, his work. I used to watch him on the indies in Chikara. Like, he did Chikara shows back in the day, and it's like, nobody is doubting this guy's talent whatsoever. I will say that this is an interesting footnote here. My wife is very excited. Not that he got released, because obviously she was very sad when I told her that, but she's like, hey, that might be someone that I might get to see him wrestle barefoot live. Because that's one of her big fascinations with him, is that he wrestles barefoot. Like, she's just fascinated by the fact that somebody would go in there and do that. But she always liked Matt Riddle. So who knows? I have a feeling we'll be seeing him on the indies at some point. I don't see any of the major companies taking a chance on him. I don't see Tony Khan taking a chance on him. So that leaves out AEW and Ring of Honor. I don't know if Impact would. It's hard to say. I don't know what kind of relationship he has with some of these people. Maybe he's got good connections in Impact. There's always, but again, there's always things like MLW. There are other companies out there, but I think that Matt Riddle is going to return to being a staple of the indie scene. The fact that he got as far as he did in WWE, and WWE basically did not change his gimmick at all, but steered into it, is amazing to begin with.
It's even better.
It's even better. But I think that we're going to see him really, become a quote unquote, not just the king of bros, but maybe the king of the indies again. Like, going back to.
Sold. That should be his indie gimmick. That should be it. That should be it. He is the bro of the indies. That should be his gimmick.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Keep the bro, but do bro of the indies. I think.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I think the problem with Matt Riddle is that he has all this baggage that some companies don't want to take. I feel like if he goes the Drew Galloway route and sort of reinvents himself in the indies, gives himself time to rebuild, then at that point his stock will rise and people will want him back in their major companies. I think
it's possible.
Give him the time to maybe sort of check himself, get rid of all the excess baggage, sort of reset his life, restart it, go back from the start, back in the indies, and kind of work his way back up to where he can say, okay, maybe I can be now signed with AEW or WWE, or come back, or maybe even go to Ring of Honor. I could see him going to ROH and killing it, over there too. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility that he goes to the indies, and after some time he's able to go back. So who knows? Sky's the limit, but I think he's going to be a pretty big fixture on the indies for a while.
Right. I agree.
So let's head into your number 2.
My number 2. I'm trying, just going through this list. There's not many names I really know left, but one. And it's going to be probably as unconventional and as polarizing as your Dana Brooke, or as our Dana Brooke was.
Yeah.
Just because I don't get it, because I've always been a fan of his. I was a huge fan of the group as well, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with it.
I do.
I was a fan when the group was a whole, when Swerve was in WWE, and I'm talking about the group of Hit Row. I'm more surprised that only this one of them of the group got released this time, because last time it was the entire group. This time it was just Top Dollar. Now, I understand that there was one time on TV where he did a really bad botch and he missed a dive, and that was like his whole story. But the dude does have talent across the board. They just didn't give him the proper chance after that failed dive to bounce back. But I think he was another good wrestler and talent that they just couldn't see. And I honestly think that he was underrated because he just wasn't given the opportunity after that one botch to bounce back from it. And because he was a talent, he could do the promos. He had the charisma. He could do the rap because that was the whole group, the whole rap group. He could do that. He was talented in the ring. I think they misused him as well. So, it's probably not a pick that people would think of because, again, it's, not a guy that really did much, but he was, in my eyes, a star that they just didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah. I'm not really sure I understand it either. I don't know. I don't feel like WWE has ever been as high on Hit Row as they should have been. I don't think they've ever really been that, really that much behind them.
No.
So I don't exactly know what the plan is from here. I don't know. I'm honestly surprised that everybody's not gone. Because I figured this would have been an opportunity for them to wash their hands of the whole thing. But we'll see what happens. Again, I think this is a guy that will probably, have some talent and success from maybe AEW or maybe maybe Impact. I'm not sure. It's possible. I think that he could probably have a decent mid-card career. Maybe even, I mean, who knows? Guys reinvent themselves all the time when they go to these other organizations, and you just never quite know what's going to happen between, talent going from one place to another because people see things differently and anything could happen. But I definitely think this guy probably has a career still ahead of him. I think that there's going to be interest in him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think obviously he'll have to change his gimmick because I'm sure the name Top Dollar is copyrighted by WWE.
Yeah,
so he'll probably have to use his real name or something of that nature.
Sure.
But I think if given the chance and given the proper chance, he could be a star. I think maybe for him it would be wise to kind of, again, go back to Drew McIntyre, kind of maybe go back to the Indies, maybe rebuild himself after everything that happened, sort of rebuild his brand, rebuild his name, and then when he's ready to release it to the wilds, he can go back to the main scene and show off what he's learned and what he did, along the way.
Yeah. All right. So my number one, and of course, I mean, honestly, I don't know what your number one is. I'm sure I do, but there's only one. There's only one name. There's only one name. There's only one choice. It is easily the most talented and gifted name on this list. It is the name that has probably gone through. I can't say, because I already said that I thought Dana Brooke was done wrong more than anybody else. So I can't say that I think this person was necessarily done wrong more than anybody else, but I think this person has mired at a level unbefitting and undeserving of their talent for longer than anyone else. And of course, we're talking about he's Dolph Ziggler. There's no other way. There's no other person.
There's
nobody
name.
else.
That dude, no. Like this man has gone through the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in the WWE. And I don't think they ever saw him as a plus player ever. And he is a A plus times infinity plus player. The talent he has in one finger is just astounding. He has the charisma. He has the in-ring work. He has the athleticism, the agility, the mic work. He has the perfect balance of everything. And they just didn't see that in him. And it's just crazy to me. Crazy.
there's really nothing more I can say about him talent-wise. What I will say is that I think moving forward, I honestly believe that Dolph Ziggler leaving WWE is going to be akin to MJF if he ever leaves AEW. I think that there's going to be a bidding war for this guy. I think everybody is going to want him, and I'm talking everybody. I'm sure Tony Khan is going to shell out whatever he has to shell out to outbid everyone else. I think it'll just be, what does Dolph Ziggler think is right for him? But I think that Dolph Ziggler has the world is his oyster. I think he can go anywhere he wants, do anything he wants. I think if he wanted to simply, just become a god of the indies and just go and work every indie promotion anywhere, there is no indie promotion that is going to say no to him if they can. If they meet his price, there's no indie organization that's going to say no. I think that of anybody on the list, the most opportunities, I think there's going to have the most people coming after him. I think this is going to be one of those things that's going to come back to bite WWE because they're not going to realize exactly what they got rid of.
Oh, they got rid of just such a talent that when I heard that name, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, he wasn't being used, and they didn't really have anything for him. But it's Dolph Ziggler. The dude for a while was just kind of helping other talent get over, because he could sell anything. He could make the dumbest thing look like death. He was just such a good in-ring worker. He understood the mindset of everything, whether it was winning, losing, selling, whatever it is. He just understood how to do it and make it look so good.
Absolutely.
It's nuts that they got rid of him. And I'm more sad that he's going to have to get rid of the Dolph Ziggler gimmick, because I'm sure, again, that's another WWE trademark, so he has to lose what he built up for so long and literally restart from scratch.
Well, I think he's going to be one of those guys that no matter what he does, people are going to, recognize the talent, recognize, who it is and what they're watching. And I think it'll carry over to whatever he does.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, hell, he's been doing comedy shows on the side, so I don't even. He doesn't even have to wrestle anymore. He could just do, if he wants to, he can just be a comedian and then just do comedy, and just do that.
Yeah.
Because again, he's that talented where he can do almost anything. It doesn't have to be wrestling. It could be whatever he wants it to be.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Literally, the entire world, as you said, is his oyster. He can do whatever he wants to do.
It'll be interesting to look back in, 3 months, 6 months, a year's time, and just see, what has happened to this list of people, because there is a lot of talent on there. So, from everybody here at Opinion City, we wish everyone who was released the best of luck. We hope that things work out for you however you would like them to work out for you. It's a sad day, but also a day of opportunity for those who want to go out there and make something, make chicken salad out of chicken poop, as they say. So
we're sad that you got future endeavored, but we hope that your future endeavors are as bright as your talent is.
Exactly. Not the episode we planned, but a great episode nonetheless. We got to talk about the week in wrestling, which we don't always have so much to talk about when it comes to the week in wrestling, but it's nice that we were able to get through some of that and talk a little bit about what's going on.
It was just a crazy week. There was just, again, so much things happened in such a short time span that, how could we not talk about it? There was just so much that happened, and between the releases, the announcements, before we forget, because there was another big one that they announced that we didn't really mention. We mentioned it, but let's mention it again. They announced that February of 2024, they're going back to Australia for the Elimination Chamber of Perth. We did mention it when we mentioned that Emma announced it, but then said that she was released. But they're doing an international show once again. This time they're gonna be in Perth, Australia, for the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be another big show under their hands.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what happens with the Australian crowd and everything that they do for this event. Because, if they lean into it half as much as they leaned into Backlash in Puerto Rico, I think it's going to be really cool.
Oh yeah, it's going to be
For those of you in the States, be prepared. We'll be watching at like 5 a.m.
Yeah, I was going to say
like
before
10-hour difference or something. Yeah.
Ralph told me that the time change, and I didn't realize that the show was going to start our time at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty crazy, but it'll be fun.
Early morning show for us to watch.
Yeah. It'll be fun nonetheless.
No, yeah. I mean, obviously they'll have the replay after. So if you don't want to get up that early to watch it live, you can always just watch the replay. But I like watching it live, so I might just stay up all night and just watch it at 5 a.m.
Yeah. So before we hit the road here, just wanted to throw a quick little shout out to my wife Sonia, who checked in today. So always good to see my wife supporting the endeavors. She's put up with my wrestling very well. She's been a great fan. She likes going to see matches live. So we're going to be we're actually going to be going to a show next Friday. We're going to go see the LVAC's got a free show at the Touchstone Theater in Bethlehem.
Unbound.
Yeah, so we're going to be going to see that. So it's exciting that she was able to take a moment and check in today. Yeah, good stuff. So another great episode. So we want to thank all of our listeners for listening to the Opinion City podcast with myself and Parmesan. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our social, which is at Opinion City Pod. We hope you pass that along to your friends and colleagues. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And be sure to check out all of the other episodes and let us know what you think about those topics as well as this week's topics, because we love to hear from you. Check out us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, at Opinion City Pod. This has been a Mancast Network production, and we will see you next time.
This is Ultimo Ann here. You're listening to Opinion City Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Happy trails to